Hi, my name is Dominic Palazzolo, and I'm the owner of Marvelous Molds. And today I come to you to announce yet another innovation that we've come up with. Now I want you to remember, Marvelous Molds was the one to come out with the bladed self-trimming molds. We also invented the silicone onlay. And I want to tell you that we have now come up with another innovation that I think is going to change the cake decorating industry. But before I show you the new product, I want you to go back in time. I want you to imagine the first time that you had to actually roll out fondant into a nice big circle and then lift that fondant up and put it over a real cake and then smooth the sides and get it around that cake perfectly with no tears, no dryness, no elephant skin. It's my opinion that this one act is probably one of the most difficult hurdles to overcome when you're learning how to decorate cakes with fondant. So what if I told you that you could sidestep that whole process and you really don't have to commit all that fondant and all that effort and cover a cake like I just described? Well, let me show you the new invention here. We call it a Simpress, okay? And we have three really cool designs. And I'll show you what these look like later. But basically, the Simpress is a way of being able to create panels of fondant that then can be put on the cake like a silicone onlay, and it can also be used in many other ways. Now, I'm going to show you how to use a Simpress, but before I do that, let's take a moment and let me show you the designs that we have created. We have three designs that we're introducing, and I wanted you to get a real good feel for what they look like. The first Simpress I want to show you is called Sequin Jubilee. This is a random arrangement of real faceted sequins that my artist arranged by hand under my supervision. The next Simpress is called Pretty in Pearls. Once again, every pearl you see here was handmade, and the arrangement is the result of countless attempts to create a perfect blend of pearl sizes in order to produce a texture that will stop people in their tracks. The last Simpress we have named Symmetrical Sequin, which, as you can see, is a perfect and precise arrangement of faceted sequins that creates a texture that you simply can't take your eyes off of. Even though we aren't covering a whole cake with fondant, we still have to cover the top. I like to make a template of my baked cakes, which will give me a more accurate dimension for a fondant top. First, I measure the diameter of a crumb-coated cake. Then I trace the diameter on a cake circle. I trim off the excess with a scissors. I will then roll out fondant and, using the template, cut a perfectly sized fondant circle for the top of the cake. Using a rolling pin, I thin the edges of the fondant so that I get a thin covering over the shoulder of the cake. Now simply place the fondant top on the cake and smooth it level, and then press it over the edges of the cake using your hands or a fondant smoother. Okay, now let's get into the fun part. I want to show you how to use the Simpress, and we're going to start out with the Pretty in Pearls, okay? Now, when you get a new Marvelous mold and you're going to use it for fondant, it's a good idea to season it. And what I do is I put a lot of cornstarch down on that, and I really want to get that well distributed. And then what I want to do is I want to get most of it out of there, okay? Whatever you got to do, we just want to powder coat, okay? Just like that. Okay, so we're going to set that down. Now, what I've done is I've already sheeted my fondant. And if, when you're starting out, if you're kind of confused about how thick to make the fondant, on the Simpress, we have these edges here. This is the cutting blade and the side wall of the mold. And what I like to do is I like to roll the fondant so that it's just a little higher than the side wall. And that gives you enough fondant to go down into these details. Okay? So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to put this right over the top. Let me show you something that I like to do. The side that goes down into the Simpress, what I'm going to do is, believe it or not, it doesn't look like I'm putting any cornstarch on there, but I just like to rub it with my pounce, and then I put that side down, okay? All right, now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to press the fondant into the details. Now, I just want to tell you folks that we made these details extreme because we want this to just pop on a cake, okay? What that means is that you're really going to have to press quite firmly down onto the fondant and really, really push it into the Simpress. We want that dramatic effect. I want them to see the details on a wedding cake from across the party hall, okay? And so you really want to press it down and make sure that the fondant is getting into the detail. Now what I do is I turn the whole thing over and it's clear, all right? And I can see the deeper pearls. And what I want to do is I want to press real hard down into the table, okay? And this is just a little bit of insurance to make sure that you're really, really getting those details. So now what we're going to do is turn it over, and as you can see, the self-trimming Simpress has already cut through the sides, okay? So that's the thing about Marvelous Molds, is that the Simpress, the silicone onlay, our molds are self-trimming. There's no need to feather it and work on the edges. What we got here is a perfectly trimmed, perfectly filled Simpress ready to go. Okay? All right, now, this is really important, and I want you not to forget this, okay? What you want to do before you unmold the Simpress is really push in on the edges. You push in on this sidewall and blade. And what you want to do is you want to create a back angle, okay? So really do this, and I'm going to show you why this is important when I'm applying it on the cake, okay? When you get good at this and you're used to a Simpress, you can do two sides at the same time so that we can quickly get on with it, okay? All right, now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Simpress and I'm just going to go to an edge and I'm just going to kind of crack it, okay? I'm going to grab onto this unmolding lip and I'm just going to pull back, okay? And I'm just going to get all these edges. And if I get the perimeter loose, I know that it's going to come out really nice, okay? And then what I want you to do is peel that baby off, and there you go. There's your beautiful panel. And what I want to do with that is I want to take these panels and I'm going to put them onto a wax paper lined pan, and I'm going to make more of these and I'm going to put them in the refrigerator, and once they firm up in the refrigerator, I'll be back and I'll show you how we're going to apply that onto the cake. Okay, so I'm back, and as you can see, I have my panels made and I refrigerated them. And once you refrigerate the bottom row, they're nice and firm, and you can just put another layer right on top. Of course, I use a pan liner or wax paper in between so they don't stick. Okay, we're going to put that aside. And here is our cake with one panel applied. I don't know about you, but I think this design is awesome. Anyway, let's get into showing you how to put the next panel on. First of all, you notice, and we always do this in Marvelous Molds, this side, it has been shaped so it fits perfectly with the next panel. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to hide the seams. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my panel and I'm going to, okay, I know what side goes there. I'm going to take my edible glue. And what I like to use is 3 parts of corn syrup and 1 part of water. But use your favorite glue that you work with cakes. It all should work. You see, this is an entire panel, unlike the onlays, which have an open design and there's less surface area. This has a lot of surface area, okay? So it really, really bonds to the cake. Okay, so what I'm going to do, and I got to do this backwards, but because the panel's been refrigerated, I have some rigidity, and I can just put it on by hand. This is the great thing about paneling. And what I'm going to do is just kind of get it in there first, okay? Lock it in, and then I'm going to put the panel on the rest of the cake, okay? Okay, and we're just going to get that to stick. Okay, now, let's see, I'm doing this through the camera, but as you can see, there's a little gap on the seam, but that's okay. What we're going to do is we're just going to close that, and look at how beautiful that is. Look how one panel just interlocks right into the next, and we're getting that bumpy, beautiful texture. People are just not going to be able to resist this. And it's amazing how quick that we can do this. Now, what I like to do is I like to pull the top down on top. Remember, we thinned the edge of the top fondant. Remember that? And so what I want to do is I just want to try to decrease the seam that we have as the panel goes over the shoulder of the cake. Okay, now, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to panel the rest of this cake, and then we're going to come back and I want to show you something about how to finish this cake, all right? Okay, so I want to show you something. You know, the Simpress, just like the silicone onlay, it's made 6.288 inches long. That's 2 times pi, okay? And if your cake, your finished cake, is exactly 8 inches, 10 inches, 12 inches, you know that they're all going to go and line up together. Now, I thought this cake was 7 3/4 inches in diameter, but I guess because of the finishing and everything, we've got something that is exactly 8 inches. So I want to show you this, okay? I'm going to put this on. And you can see how this panel is working right up to the first panel. Just interlocking, and we get a beautiful coverage. Now, when the panels warm up to room temperature, they get much more flexible, and you can close these gaps even better, okay? And as the panels soften, that's when you can really push this down on the shoulder of the cake and close that gap. Now, you know, it's a nice strategy or a thought if you wanted to. What you could do is you could undersize the height of your cake, make it maybe like 3 3/4 inches tall, so that you have the Cimpress actually exceeding over the top of the cake, and you can keep it like that. It looks like a really cool kind of gate or fence. Or you can push it down so that it rests on top of the cake, and that's also a really nice look. Okay, so there's our cake, and let me just clean up these seams, and I'll be able to do a better job as the panels soften. But here's our cake, completely covered with the panels, and we have this beautiful effect, and you can see just how quickly we can do that. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you what to do if a panel, when you wrap your cake and your cake isn't exactly an even number in diameter, what we're going to do in order to fill that gap. It's pretty cool. So I'll be right back. We'll do a little prep work. In this segment, I want to show you how you can fill a gap as we put panels around a cake. You know, the panels are not always going to meet perfectly like they did for me, okay? So if we take a look at the two Pretty and Pearl panels, you know, this is how they fit together, and it's really nice. But what if we had a gap like that? You know, let's say that we had a gap of about 1 inch, okay? Well, what do we do? Okay, so let me show you. I'm going to put these aside. And now what I've done is I've formed another Pretty and Pearls piece, okay? And so what we said was, we said that the gap was 1 inch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my gap, and I'm going to notice, okay, I need that side that has the two big pearls in it. Okay, I got that. All right. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my ruler, and I am going to find the 1 inch mark, and I'm going to basically put this edge on top of an unmolded Cimpress panel. And then what I'm going to do is I don't want to ruin the pattern, so I'm kind of lifting it up like this, okay? And I'm just pushing the blade down into the fondant. And what the blade will do is it will trim for you a perfect piece that will fill the gap. Okay, so what do? Well, we're going to apply some edible glue, and then what we're going to do is, as you can see, this is going to slot right in there, okay? And then what we would do is close it up. Now, I want to point out that on this side, it's a perfect match. Obviously, right here, we're going to have some overlaps and things like that, but it looks practically seamless. Now, I want you to remember earlier in this video when I asked you to press the walls, press the fondant back, and what we want is a back angle on the bottom of a Cimpress panel. Okay, we want the fondant on the edges to have a back angle. The reason why is because when I put these together, that back angle enables me to get a really great joining and a practically seamless connection. if we didn't back angle it, it would actually kind of get in your way and you won't get such a seamless connection. And then also when we're making the patch, do you see how we've got this jagged edge here? Okay, you see that jagged edge? Well, because I've got that back angle on there, look at how beautifully that goes together. Okay, so always remember before you unmold a Cimpress, push the sides inward in order to create a back angle. In this segment, I want to show you how to use the Cimpress in a whole nother way. Actually, you can use a Cimpress just like a silicone onlay, okay? So what I have here is the second of 3 designs. It's called the Sequin Jubilee. And if you look right here, you can see the detail, okay? Now, I personally feel like this is what the confetti cake was supposed to be. Just think how quickly you can get the same effect. You don't have to spend all that money on those sugar discs or on all those sugar rocks, whatever you put on the cake. You can just do it with fondant. So I've got a panel on the cake, and if you notice, instead of making the cake monotone, I put a white fondant top on the cake. So that's another nice thing about paneling and advantages with the Cimpress, is that you can actually two-tone your cake. You know, when you're covering the whole cake with fondant, you got one choice, basically, one color. And in this way, you can get a really nice effect. You'll see that better as we finish the cake. Okay, so I'm going to put this aside. And we have this new Cimpress. See how sparkly that is? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to season this really good. Okay, always do that if you're going to work with fondant or gum paste with a new Cimpress, okay? Now, if you're going to pour isomold or molten sugar or chocolate, go ahead and put it in the dishwasher and get it shiny again. Every one of the Marvelous molds is always shiny, and you'll get a beautiful shine. Okay, so you remember the drill, right? What we're going to do is we're going to press really, really hard, okay? And we're pressing hard because the details are so extreme. But those extreme details are going to impress the heck out of your family, your friends, your customers. So take a moment, push it hard, okay? Now I'm going to flip this over. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to really, really press hard here. Make sure I can see right through it. And if there was some unfilled details, I would see some air. I wouldn't see a uniform color, okay? All right, so I'm going to flip that back. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use my fondant smoother and press with a turn, okay? You don't have to press hard. It's the turning, okay? That's the secret. Press and turn, and then it'll trim it beautifully, okay? Now, don't forget, okay? Don't forget to put a back angle on your fondant panel by pressing the side walls in towards the center of the Cimpress, okay? You might see a little bit of bulging. Don't worry about that. You're not going to notice that. What's important is to get a nice back angle on all 4 sides of your Cimpress. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, let's see. One great thing about the Sequin Jubilee is that, boy, you get immediate release. It's a very, very easy Cimpress to use. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to apply my edible glue. Okay. I'm going to bring in my cake. Let's get this all lined up with the cameras here. Okay. All right, now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen it, and, you know, it's very obvious, okay? It's ready to go. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this the onlay style. What we're going to do is we're going to take this fresh, unrefrigerated panel. We're going to put it right on the cake. So I'm going to take that panel and only one side at a time, okay? We're going to take that leading edge, and what we're going to do is we're going to put that leading edge right up against the fondant panel that's already been applied to the cake. And then we're going to bring the panel around onto the cake without stretching, okay? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just checking the sides. Boy, it's coming off really nicely. And so I've pulled off the panel, okay? Now, you can see the seam right there, right? Okay, so what you should do, and the back angle, oh, there we go. I'm looking in the camera and trying to do this. What you do, let me take it around here so I can see it. This is the way you're going to be working. Okay. Look at how nicely that fits together, and it hardly shows a seam. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to finish out this cake, and then I want to show you something really cool that is a part of the Sequin Jubilee. Okay, so as you can see, I have finished this cake with the Sequin Jubilee, and just thought I'd give you a look just to see how this cake, isn't that great, the way these sequins just seem to be piled on top. Uh-oh, there we are, look at that. Okay, so see, we have a seam that's showing, all right? What I did was I did a repair, okay? And I did a repair by cutting back, and I purposefully tried to make it very noticeable that, gee, you know, we need to do something extracurricular there to clean it up. And that's what I want to show you, okay? With the Sequin Jubilee, you get this $50 sized mold, and we called this the Sequinizer. This was named by one of my employees. I don't really like the name, but everybody else does. So it's known as the Sequinizer, okay? And because the Sequin Jubilee is such a random collection of sequins, we felt like we need to give you a tool so you can make individual sequins and kind of make repairs. So what you do is you take this nifty little mold and you press it into really thin fondant, okay? Okay, and see that? We've got this little spot, okay? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to really press it into the cavity of the mold, and then I'm going to press the cutting blade inward to give it a nice finished edge. Now, here's what I like to do. If I take this sequin out of here, the very, very light details that are the facets of the sequins, you kind of see them when you press it on the cake. So what I'm going to do is, let's take this cake and get it back in there. Let's get a close-up on that so I can show you, okay? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to find a spot where I want to put a sequin, and then I'm going to kind of tuck it in there. Really don't want to touch the top. But what I want to do is I want to put on individual sequins in order to cover the gaps, okay? Now, let's say that your cake is 8 inches high. Okay. All of the sim presses that I've shown you will go together side by side or top on the bottom. They'll stack, and you can put panels up a cake, around a cake. But because the sequin jubilee is so random, when you put, let's say, another panel on top of a panel on a tall cake, again, that's when you would take the sequinizer and you would generate nice individual sequins to cover up that seam. So here's our two-tone cake made with the sequin jubilee. And I'll tell you what, any of these patterns, if you were going to color them like, some vodka and a luster dust or a dusting color, you will be amazed at how they take on that color and create a really shimmering presence. It's absolutely astounding. Okay, now I've got one more to show you, so I'm going to set up for that and I'll be right back. Now I'd like to show you the last Simpress, and that is the symmetrical sequin. Now, on this cake, thought we would take a different approach. On the previous cakes, basically they were crumb coated and I put a fondant top on them and we put the panels around the side. But your customer may really not like fondant, and so when they get a slice of a fondant cake, they like to peel off the fondant, okay, and then eat the cake. So what we've got here is your conventional straight up buttercream cake. Okay, we've got buttercream sides and everything. And you can actually beautify this cake with the application of panels and leave the top, buttercream. You don't have to cover the top with fondant. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to panel up this cake nice and quick, and we're just going to run the camera and give you a nice time lapse, and let's see how quick we can do this, okay? So I'm going to get to work, and I'm going to put symmetrical sequin on the side of this cake, lickety-split. So there we have it. This is the symmetrical sequin, and over a buttercream cake, and so you can see that beautiful texture. Now I know you're looking at it and you're saying, wow, it looks like scaling, and I got to tell you, this is going to make some of the finest scaling you've ever seen. So don't be afraid to use this on any type of fish sculptures, or this would be absolutely amazing for a mermaid. And yes, you know what? It's a sequin, but when you use it for a fish, they're not going to see it that way. But when you use it on a mermaid, it's going to be a sequin treatment with a fashion twist to it. So each one of these individual sequins is arranged absolutely symmetrically. Don't be afraid to go vertical for a tall cake. Like I said, these panels fit side to side and top to bottom. So you'll be able to get a seamless application with this beautiful panel, and you won't believe how quick the whole process can be. So I know you've been watching the video, and we've been using the Simpress cake panel maker to cover cakes on the side. But you know what? This can be a great thing for cupcakes. It's the extreme detail that really is going to make your cupcakes pop. So what I'm going to do is, let me just show you how cute this can be. I'm going to take the Pretty in Pearls, and with a round cutter you can probably cut out 2 cupcake toppers. See that? Okay, now, so I'm going to take one of these and I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on there. Okay. And then what we're going to do is on any cupcake, just take it and put it right on top. And look at that. Look at that bumpy, beautiful cupcake. So quick, so easy. Why don't we bring in the other styles so you can see how they look. So, look at the beautiful cupcakes that you can make so easily with the Simpress. Just think of the other things that you can do with this amazing new product. Well, that's our video for today. I hope you enjoyed learning about our new product, the Simpress Cake Panel Maker. You know, if you were impressed with this product, you should join our newsletter, our mailing list basically, because that's when we will send you our videos, our announcements of new products. We have sales from time to time throughout the year, and you'll be the first to know. So if you're not on our newsletter or mailing list, go to marvelousmolds.com, go to the bottom of any page, and just opt in right there, and you'll be in the know. We will let you know when we have new products coming out just like this. And I want to tell you something. This Simpress is just one of many new products, many new innovations that we're coming out with that I've already got in the works. So hopefully you'll be one of the first ones to know when we come out with a new product. If you'd like to get your hands on a Simpress, they're available at marvelousmolds.com and any of our fine distributors all over the world. So hope you try these new products out. I think you'll find them very fun. And again, thank you for watching.